Greetings, everyone. My name is Titus Montage Jones, and this is my presentation over my research for Titus Andronicus. First, I want to start off with an explanation of my argument. So I asked the question, can barbaric acts of revenge, even those that lead to cannibalism and revenge tragedies and society, ever be justified? So to this, I want to consider the psychological elements of criminal behavior in Titus Andronicus, which I call the symbolism of criminality. And Titus both employs and stretches ideas of revenge justification through multiple avenues. So you have rape. We're looking at both literal and figurative. You also have the black-white color binary system, which is seen through Aaron the Moor. Then you have like roles of divine intervention. I also look at how pity is formed or removed when victims are criminalized. Um, I touch on revenge by necessity, and of course, the idea of barbarism and cannibalism. And that last point goes back to my research question, if barbarous acts can be justified. My research approach, I approach this tragedy from a very open position, understanding on one hand the immorality of murder, and then on the other hand, the need for revenge murder, which is akin to personal revenge, something that we talked about earlier in the semester. My approach also followed this path. I read and annotated Titus and drew my own conclusions prior to research. That way, when I started doing the research, it was more looking for support that matched my arguments rather than my arguments trying to match the support. And also, as seen in my annotated, I actually it was almost like I found nearly random articles to assist my arguments. And I say nearly random because I did type in keywords such as Titus Andronicus and rape. And I use the two databases, JSTOR and ProQuest. On the search, I then went with articles whose titles seem to echo my arguments in some ways. Doing so, most of the articles became very useful. Only about two of the articles I've decided that I may not use and just replace them because the main points may be a little bit too far off from the direction of my own argument. Next, I want to give examples that illustrate my main ideas. And I'll look at I guess, to rape and the color system. So one of the heinous criminal acts that we see in Titus, of course, is rape. And I'm gonna look at rape through community, well, based on community and prison rape, with prison rape being used more in a figurative sense. So when it comes to community rape, although they're got Chiron and Demetrius are still within the range of their community, and they feel a comfortability, community comfortability to commit these corrupt acts. Also, Tamara's eventual ties to Saturninus also makes Rome their adopted community. So why do men rape? Who influences them or gives them the courage to rape? And when I say courage, I'm talking about courage as in the courage to engage in corruption, not an act of bravery. Chiron and Demetrius are influenced by and supported by society. Tamara, their mother, by the rules of war and by deceit. Rape also occurs in prison, i.e., prison of the mind. So Lavinia, Titus, Marcus, and Lucius are all plagued by the assault Lavinia's assault so much that it becomes a great burden that kind of just echoes death. Lavinia and Titus, they are living dead afterwards. And then I also got vibes of suicide desires by Titus based on the mental hell that is created. Tamara, who is taken as a slave, she's also raped because she's raped of her original position, her liberty, home. So even when she becomes this alleged mother or queen of Rome with her ties to Saturninus, uh, I feel like in her heart, she knows that she is still stripped of her womanhood um, because of being placed in, this bondage situation. Next, when we look at the black-white binary color system, Aaron's Moore status is explored both as a positive and as a negative element, both as a stripping device and as a stepping device and as a hindering force. Because of Aaron's blackness and because of the way the colors were defined, where you have black is evil, white is pure, he represents the barbarian African even more than the acts of the other characters. Because of Aaron's status, his misdeed of fathering a child with Tamara is allegedly worse than killing one's own child in the play. As we saw with Titus killing his sons at the beginning, they are almost written in almost as normal or like an afterthought. So essentially, even though it's consensual, according to Chiron and Demetrius, Aaron still commits a sexual crime on Tamara. Tamara. Also, there's an interesting back and forth dialogue that occurs between Aaron and Chiron and Demetrius regarding skin color or color in general. On the one hand, white is discussed as power, but Shakespeare allows Aaron to contradict it with the notion of black as power. So coincidentally, um, neither of the three have the type of power that they argue over, as neither is spared from revenge. What they do have in common, whether they're white or black or goth or Moor, is a corrupt nature. So I'm gonna look at, I guess I'm be looking more at the color contention as a way to criminalize the individual rather than either color or race. Um, Also, the fly killing scene, at first glance, it seems trivial, but this scene is loaded with a lot of symbolism, specifically that of a racially charged motif of blackness. The obvious is when we look at the color, the adult of the fly, the adult fly, when you have the adult ash gray to black color, which I guess no matter how insensitive, from that, of course, you can easily draw like a skin or covering comparisons to Aaron. But psychologically, there exists a difference between looking at color simply as color and then looking at color racially. The latter tends to dehumanize and demonize, even label one as criminally inclined, even when one is not. But clearly, being free of crime is not a characteristic of Aaron. But at this point in the play, when Marcus kills the fly, Aaron's crimes are not known by Titus. So as a result, he humanizes Aaron by a showy display of affection for the life of a fly. Next, I'll look at how the project has shifted from the original proposal. So of course, my research, it has shifted from a main focus on barbarism and cannibalism to more of when I'm looking at the symbolism of criminality, almost all the criminal acts into play where I still incorporate barbarism. In other words, my original intent with barbarism, like I said, was to focus solely on cannibalism within the play, and if it warranted revenge justification. The shift incorporates me looking at multiple acts of criminality as it relates to revenge, which makes the writing and the research process somewhat less taxing. And then last, I look at or I answer if there was any unexpected knowledge that I gained from my research. So there was kind of like two points. One of the scholars that I found, Joshua R. Held, um, in his critique of the fly scene, that was unexpected somewhat. Um, so originally I saw it more as Shakespeare giving humanity to Titus rather than it being connected to the color binaries that occur between Aaron and Demetrius and Chiron, and then it's more of Titus giving humanity to Aaron. And then the other one, which was probably the most shocking, main example, well, I guess it was shocking, but I guess based on like the references to like the other tragedies in mythology, I guess it really shouldn't be, but it still was. So, and this is finding out that women being raped would be put to death probably by the father, as we see in Titus. And then what Titus does with Lavinia at the end, basically because the raped woman is a woman overburdened with shame. So this really puts a new spin on inappropriate patriarchal ideals and female objectification. All right, and that concludes my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.